It's my husband's birthday today. He's a nurse and he works with a lot of girl nurses. And these are 2 birthday shout outs they gave him on Instagram. Let me know what you think. I don't know what to think. This just doesn't sit well. The words, the comfortness level. Like, what happened to, hey, happy birthday?
What?
Am I just tripping?
All right, so you guys saw that video. I don't really know what is going on here fully, so I'm just going to look at this from a particular standpoint. I'm going to look at this from the standpoint of, is this woman having a sufficient amount of bedroom fun with her husband? Now, the reason that I bring this up is because I know for a fact I have enough married and formerly married friends that have told me when a woman is ready to call it quits in her relationship, in her marriage, she will just shut the sex all the way off. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this man is a male nurse, and male nurses make a lot of money. They can clock a lot of overtime, a lot of medical facilities, a lot of hospitals. They're always in desperate need of male nurses. So these guys can get tons of overtime. They can get tons of special assignments. It's always, a positive to have male nurses. Now, the nursing profession as a whole is rife with infidelity and people sleeping with each other. But, that's neither here nor there. Here's the deal. These women, they did something very overtly. They work with this guy. They're apparently super comfortable with this guy. They're calling him Zaddy. They are calling him work husband, but they're doing it kind of like online, right? They're doing this stuff online and they're doing it in a very public fashion. Now, typically women don't do this when they know this guy is married. When a bunch of women know that you're married, they only do this if they're A, directly trying to interfere with your marriage, or B, they know your marriage is on the rocks. You've given them all the green lights to go ahead and cheat. And, they're just out there kind of in the open with it because it's kind of like a badly kept secret that this person is stepping out of his marriage. Now, I'm not going to say that it's okay for him to do that if that's what he's doing. I'm just going to simply say, I have seen this a lot. The wife might know that this guy is going to end up having to pay a ton in child support. I don't know how many kids they have, but they have at least one because you can hear the one kid in the car. So she might know that she's going to get broke off in terms of child support. So she might have cut the sex off and just decided, you know what? I'm going to let you go ahead and cheat on me. And then I'm going to get you caught up, and then I'm going to divorce you, and I'm going to take you for everything you got. Now, I'm not saying that is what's happening. Like I said, I'm only assessing this from one particular standpoint, and that's the first thought that kind of popped into my head. I could be all the way wrong. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. I hope I am wrong about this, because if I'm right, this dude is about to get cleaned up when this woman takes him to divorce court. But like I said, she kind of started it by cutting off the sex.
Japan is dying. Japan had 720,000 newborns last year and 1.6 million deaths. That is 2 people gone for every newborn. And this isn't a recent trend. Japan's population has been declining for 15 years straight. Japan's population is expected to fall 30% by 2070, so 124 million to 87 million, and 4 out of 10 people will be 65 or older. Generations are going to become smaller and smaller, which is really bad because you have less working people supporting a growing elderly population. In 1980, there were 7 working age individuals per retiree, but now there's only 2. Japan will disappear eventually if something doesn't change, and Tokyo has been scrambling. Dating apps, cash perks, 4-day work weeks, relaxed immigration laws, those have been all on the table, but is it too little too late?
You know what's really funny? Japan, Korea, and China, they all have plummeting birth rates, and they all have plummeting birth rates for different reasons. Now, I'm not going to go into like China, because theirs is more political and it's a little bit more involved. But when you come to places like Japan and Korea, they have plummeting birth rates almost exclusively because of feminism. Now, that's a whole long conversation. I'm not going to get too deep into the woods on that. I just want to look at this from the standpoint of women do not care about their country. When you think about a nation and you think about a country and you think about people, you obviously think about the men, the women, the kids. You think about the past, the present, the future of that place. But the problem is women do not care about their country as a whole. When you think about something like the fall of the Roman Empire, do you think the women of the Roman Empire actually cared about the Roman Empire? Not one bit. The women of the Greek Empire did not care about the Greek Empire one bit. Women never care about the country as a whole. Women never care about a state as a whole. They don't care about a city as a whole. At the very most, they will care about their neighborhood, right? And this is from years gone by. You go to 5,000 BC all the way up till now. You can't see where women really cared on a national level. And you can see this because in Japan, these women are content to let the population completely collapse and die out. Keep in mind, Japan, America, Korea, Russia, every country has survived hard economic times where people still had foresight into the future, where they said, it's rough times, but we still gonna have these kids. It's only in the times where women can go out there and choose for themselves whether or not they're gonna have these kids. That's when the women start saying, well, I'm not gonna have no kids because everybody's broke. We got through the Great Depression, we got through World War I, World War II, we got all the way through the Dark Ages, all of that, when everybody was dirt poor. This was when only men had a choice in what was going to happen with the country. And they always looked to the future and they said, I'm going to work my fingers to the bone. I'm going to have these kids and I'm going to plant seeds, and those seeds are going to grow trees. And I am never going to sit under the shade of those trees, but my children and my children's children will. Men have always looked to the future and they sacrificed their present. Women won't do that. This is why you see in places like Korea, in places like Japan, they are completely willing to let the population collapse because they don't care about the future. It's not about the economics. It's not about people being too poor to live, because we've seen far more difficult economic times. It's because women have no foresight into the future. They don't care about the future of their clan. They don't care about the future of their father's name. They don't care about the future of their family. They don't care about the future of their village, their state, their nation, nothing. Keep in mind, I'm not bashing women. I'm just saying when it comes to a culture or a people being advanced into the future, women, they give birth to the people who will walk into the future, but men give birth and they sustain and maintain the ideals of those people. And women are willing to let that die.
If you had a son with this man, the guy that you're dating, if you had a son with him and he turned out just like him, would you be proud?
Yep. We're going to reverse that. Now, question for all the ladies. Would you let your son date you? Knowing your past, knowing your history, everything you've done, would you let your son date you? Yeah.
All right. So I always find this argument pretty crazy because women will say this. They will say, would you be proud if your son turned out like you, or would you want your daughter to date a man who was just like you? And, the guy does a good Uno reverse and everything like this. But here's the real question. The real question is, why is it when you have a man and he has a son or a daughter, that man will teach his daughter not to be taken advantage of, and he will teach his daughter to avoid all the things that he and his friends and his cousins and brothers did to women, and to get sex out of them and things like that. He will prepare that girl to not be taken advantage of. Then he'll turn around and he'll tell his son not to take advantage of women. He will prepare his son for adulthood by saying, be nice to women and everything like that. Now, here's the caveat. The father will never tell the son how to avoid being taken advantage of by women. And he'll even go a step further and say, hey, son, when me and your mom were young and we were a young married couple, I stepped out of the marriage and I cheated on your mom and it caused so much problems and blah, blah, blah. And she forgave me. And I'm such a lucky man. Never hurt somebody the way I hurt your mom. Like, he will spill his guts, his deepest, darkest secrets. Right. But here's the problem. Let's talk about the mom. A mom will sit her daughter down and prepare her daughter and say, you need to get a man who has money and he should treat you this way and all of this and all of that. But she'll never prepare the daughter to be a wife. She'll never say, this is how you're supposed to treat a man. And then that mom will never tell her daughter the deep, dark secrets. She'll never say, hey, your brother, he's actually your half brother because I cheated on your father. Or she'll never say, oh, hey, the reason me and your father are married is because I trapped him with a baby. So never trap a man with a baby because it causes all these problems. That same mom will turn around and tell the son to be basically a simp for every girl he meets. She won't. Well, some moms will prepare their sons for predatory women, but that's typically if the son is like a high profile basketball player, he has a lot of money on the line. Maybe he's like got all this college prospects. Maybe he's about to be a finance guy, a doctor, engineer type of thing. But mostly mothers turn their daughters into prostitutes and they turn their sons into simps. So I just find this whole argument a bit funny.
If it takes two to make a baby, why does only one get to decide if it's born?
Will this guy understand it written in crayon? Probably not, but we're going to give it a go. That was Johnny. Johnny goes by the date right guy and always goes on dates by himself. So I like to call him the date wrong guy. Making women dry since 1990. Yeah, 1990. 34. It's a hard 34. Johnny here wants to control women and what they do with their bodies. But let's talk about why he can't. Claiming it takes two to make a baby, but only one gets to decide whether or not they stay pregnant. Well, that's biology 101, my guy, which isn't fair. See, pregnancy isn't fair, otherwise you could get pregnant. And you can't. But since you still want to control women, let's take it a step further, shall we? Here we have our couple. He has agency over his body and what's inside. She has agency over hers and what's inside, meaning they can't control what the other does with their body. So let's just pretend that some woman takes pity on Johnny and they partake in about, 30 seconds? That's being generous. Together and leaves her completely unsatisfied. But in that time, his little swimmers decide to leave his body and head over to hers. So now they are no longer residing in him, but residing in her. Now remember, she has agency over everything in her body. Finders keepers, he doesn't then get to tell her what she can do with them. And when they do swim over to her, they rendezvous with an egg and they take up residence in her uterus, her very sad uterus. So now Johnny's big mad because he can't tell her what to do with her body. But here's what Johnny can control. He can control where he leaves his swimmers. He could leave them in a sock or in his pants. He could just lock that shit down. Or it's a little more invasive, but definitely reversible. He could just get snipped. All of these options would ensure that there isn't a sad uterus or a decision that he doesn't like. So to summarize, no, you don't get to control what women do with their bodies. But by all means, keep making these videos because every time you speak, we know you're full of ice cream. You're full of ice cream.
All right. So you guys see this clip here. This clip is the basic my body, my choice argument versus the my wallet, my choice argument that Dave Chappelle made very famous a few years back. And, both of these arguments are pretty legit. I'm not about to sit up here and tell women necessarily not to do the early termination, but I'm not also going to sit here and advocate for the abandoning of a child. There's a whole conversation that goes into that, and I won't address that here just yet. What I'm going to say is every time this conversation comes up, my default thought process is always to the girl or the boy who throws away their potential and which one can recover. I want you to think about a girl. Maybe she's 15, 16 years old and she has a bright future ahead of her and she goes out there, she gets pregnant and she has a choice to make. She can have this kid and that's going to derail her from, college. It's going to derail her from all her internship programs and this and that, right? Like back in the day, like back in the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, you would be completely screwed. Now, in today's day and age, everything is about catering to the woman and single motherhood. So if she got pregnant in today's day and age, she'd be fine. But let's just think with the thought process of the 90s and the 80s and the 70s. You got this girl, she's on her way to success. She gets pregnant at 16. She has a decision to make. That girl can easily just delete the baby and get right back to her life. Okay. Now I want you to think about the boy. Let's say we have a boy who's 16. He gets in the car with some friends and somebody ends up robbing a liquor store. He doesn't rob the liquor store, but he's in the getaway car. He's going to jail. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no muss, no fuss. He's not getting out of that no way, no how. So when I hear this conversation about, women getting pregnant and can they delete the baby and why can't the man abandon the kid and all of this, I just always think back to why can't people just understand this from the standpoint of potential? The girl has more to lose. A woman has more to lose when intimacy is had. She knows she has more to lose. So why isn't contraception her main priority? Why isn't not getting pregnant on the woman? Why? Because she has the overwhelming burden. She has the overwhelming responsibility. We're not allowed to phrase it that way. And I'm not going to sit here and have this debate online. I'm just going to say I can never hear this argument without thinking about that. And it's just interesting to see how women can never look at it from the standpoint of who has the most to lose. It's obviously the woman, so she should be taking the most precautions. But guess what? Just like the boy who gets in the car with the kids who rob a bank, he was supposed to check. You were supposed to know what your friends were about. Now you lose everything. But, women don't really think that way.
Even today, could you read this, or would it take you a long time?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
Alicia graduated from the Hartford Public School System last year, but she says today she is illiterate. She still doesn't know how to read or write. When she was in early education,
they would just either tell me to sit in a corner and sleep, or just draw pictures, flowers for them.
And when she was in high school, she relied on speech-to-text programs and other apps to read and write essays.
So, if you had an assignment where you had to write something, you'd open up a document like this and then do what?
I would go here to use the text-to-speech.
It says dictate.
Dictate, yep. I love pizza.
This is how you would do your assignments.
And then...
Cats of the World VAK sporting a twin-prop airplane.
If you had to read something, that's how you...
All right, so I remember the first time I actually seen this news story, and it didn't make any sense to me because it's like, where are your parents at? Like, how did you make it to 18 without knowing how to read, write, do any kind of math, anything? Like, at no point in time did this girl's parents say, hey, there's something wrong. You can't actually read. Like, you never had to read a stop sign. You never had to read, Google Maps. You never had to read anything in a grocery store. Like, your mom never sent you to the store to get anything. Like, how do you know what the objects in the house are called if you can't read? Like, there's so many things that I would assume you can't do if you can't read. Now, I get it. She has Google Translate and everything. And I'm like, well, didn't that just come out within like the last 5 years? I don't know when Google Translate came out. I could be behind the power curve, but like, just the fact that your mom is so worthless that she let you, and keep in mind, I don't know where dad is at. The fact that your parents are so worthless that they let you get to adulthood like this, that's mind-boggling. And I know some people are going to say, blame the school. You really can't blame the school. There's only so much they can do. You got to figure, this girl looks pitiful in this video, but she's probably a hellraiser in school, just like all the rest of them. So the school can only do so much. They can only babysit so much. But like, the fact that your parents are just so useless that they allowed this to happen is just mind-boggling to me.
I'm gonna give you a little pro tip for you to figure out whether or not the man that you're dating is a natural provider or not, okay? Because if we have to teach them that, they can move to the side. And I really hope this doesn't land on any of the men's For You pages, because if they figure out this hack and figure out this is how we can tell whether or not they're providers, like, oh my God. But anyway, the next time that you're on a date with a man, I want you to ask him, what are his love languages? Not in terms of receiving love, but in terms of giving love. Because if acts of service is not his main way of showing love, or at least in his top two, there is no way that he is in his masculine energy. A man in his masculine energy is someone who is going to naturally be about actions instead of words. So if he's telling you that his love language is words of affirmation or like physical touch, that does nothing for you. You don't need a man who's on your phone telling you you're beautiful and then wants to fucking have sex with you. You need a man who's going to take care of you and is going to be of service to you. You're welcome.
You know what's so crazy about what this woman just said? A lot of women agree with this, and a lot of women, you know, kind of echo this same sentiment. Like, she's not unique in what it is that she is asserting. But here's the problem. This woman is saying that if acts of service and being generous are not one of a man's 5 love languages, and for those who don't know, the 5 love languages is based on a book of the same title. And the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, receiving gifts, and physical touch. Now, when it comes right down to it, this woman says if acts of service is not within a man's top 2 love languages, then you need to, you know, send that guy packing. Okay, here's the problem. Anytime a man says that physical touch is one of his love languages, everyone knows that that man wants bedroom fun, right? Okay, nothing wrong with that. Here's the crazy part. If you say your number 1 love language is acts of service, which is what this woman wants, you would think she would be happy. And then you say your number 2 love language is physical touch. You know what's going to happen? She's going to look at that and say, oh, you think sex is based on merit. So you think you're going to do things for me and then I'm going to owe you sex. And in my mind, yes, that's exactly how it works. I'm going to give you money, or I'm going to give you, you know, things. I'm going to do acts of service, and I'm going to be of service to you. And in turn, you're going to grab your ankles. And then she's going to call me a misogynist. That's the craziest part. Anytime physical touch is one of your top love languages, the women always use that against you. They always use it to say that the man is just objectifying the woman. That's the craziest part. This is why, if you ever get with a woman and she's talking about that love language crap, just get rid of her, because she's never going to honor your number 1 love language. A man's number 1 love language is always going to be physical touch. You go out there and you work hard and you get your 6-pack and you get your money up and you do all the things and you do the acts of service and you put up with this woman and all the mindless dribble that she says because you want the physical touch. It's just crazy how they kind of gloss over that, like that's not on the list. They want every man to put that number 5, and then all the rest of the stuff comes before it. Nope. Top 2. If you want me to have acts of service as the number 1, then physical touch is definitely number 2.
This is one of my most controversial opinions yet. I think that things should be gatekept. I don't see anything wrong with gatekeeping, because a lot of y'all are trying to steal other people's sauce, and then you get the recipe for the sauce and you butcher the sauce and you fuck up the sauce for everyone else. You need to get your own sauce. You need to find your own identity. There are people who put so much time and effort into developing their recipe, into developing their sauce, just for you to run around and tell them that they need to give you the fucking recipe and give you the ingredients. Otherwise, they're gatekeeping. A lot of y'all get a little code to the game and then you run around and fuck the game up. And when you fuck the game up, you fuck it up for everybody. Like with what happened with Shara 7. She gave y'all some game, some free game. She gave y'all a lot of free game. And what did you do? You entered the game and you fucked the game up. When it comes to any kind of SW industry, yes, we need to be helping people so they don't get hurt or taken advantage of. But you should not just running around with your hand out asking people for free game. Because a lot of y'all can get the fucking, the run or the play for the game, and then you're still going to fuck the game up. You're still not going to have the drive. You're still not going to have the hustle to run the fucking play. And you develop that drive and that hustle by learning the game yourself. You need to create your own sauce. You need to get your own game. Stop asking all these bitches for their sauce and for their game. If someone wants to share it with you, Fantastic. That's awesome. No one is obligated to share it with you. You got to innovate and you got to trial and error that shit out for yourself. And that's how we all get better.
All right. So this is actually a hilarious video. If you know, this woman is talking about gatekeeping. And in particular, she's talking about gatekeeping in the spicy work industry for all the mattress actresses out there. Now, here's the funny thing. Men for decades, for eons, for hundreds of years have wanted to gatekeep for one reason or the other. Now, we all know when you gatekeep things, you keep it pure. You keep the talented people in, you keep the untalented people out. Even she mentions that, when you give up the sauce, some people start messing stuff up. Okay. Well, I want you guys to think about this. Think about the modeling industry. How many women are in the modeling industry today that would never be in the modeling industry 30 years ago? Back in the day when it was like, I can't really name too many models like Kylie Minogue or, Tyra Banks and all that. If you were over like 110 pounds, you were considered obese for a model. Like you could not do it. Now you have all the body positivity and all this crap like this. And it's just funny that this woman says gatekeep, because in order to gatekeep, you have to have a civil war of sorts. You have to have people on the inside of the gate saying that we are the worthy and we are better than everyone on the outside of the gate. And then you have to have people on the outside of the gate pleading their case, trying to break the gate down. And you can't really have any kind of gatekeeping when it comes to women, because women think with an egalitarian mindset. They think all bodies are beautiful. All women are beautiful. So if you think about it, when it comes to like the spicy work, this is why you have women who are legitimately beautiful in that industry. And then you have these giant sweat hogs, because black men in hip hop made fat women, popular. So now you have all of these people competing for the same bag, as to where 30 years ago, it would only be the hot chicks. Like think about Playboy magazine or something like that. You would never see these big, thick, fat Instagram models in Playboy unless it was like a special edition or something like that. So it's just weird for me to hear a woman talk about gatekeeping when that's the antithesis of feminism and what women want. They want egalitarianism. So you can't have anybody gatekeeping anything, because you guys literally think everybody belongs.